What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. In this video, I've got another very important AMC update to bring all of you this evening. So what we're going to be covering in this update is the current situation revolving the potential gamma squeeze for AMC, especially with the price action that we've seen over the last couple of days. Now, coming off of what happened last January, when you saw the concentration of contracts in terms of open interest at the deep out of the money contracts, which honestly is not the thing that you want to see in order to set up that gamma ramp, coming into this week's expiration date coming up tomorrow and next week's monthly options expiration date, things are shaping up pretty good for AMC to get that additional buying pressure. Now, in addition to this, we also have to talk about the situation regarding Vanguard and some information that has been potentially circulating around about them buying 40 million shares. We're going to go over this situation, and I'm just going to kind of explain exactly what has been going on with Vanguard and a couple of other institutional purchases as well. And as always, we are going to be covering some of the crazy changes that we've seen today on AMC with that Ortex short interest and utilization data. But when we think about the price action that we've seen over the last couple of days, Tuesday and Wednesday, we saw both double-digit percentage gain days. And today, we saw a pretty strong day to start, ran all the way up to almost $21 a share, 20.96, and then sold back off with the overall market. But what this really tells us is that the apes are not going anywhere. They might be able to push the stock down in the short term and try to incite all of that fear, but it's not going to work, in my opinion, over the long term. The short interest is, as I'm going to show you guys, is at an all-time high. They are trying to force this stock down, while at the same time, some of the best fundamental news is coming out. So before we get into all of that information, if you enjoyed the information and analysis that I provide for you in this video, make sure you go down and hit that like button. It costs you nothing to do it, but it really helps us out a whole lot in getting this information out to as many people who want to learn. And if you guys want to see more videos like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you're notified every time I post a new video. In addition, if you do want to learn more about the 1348 strategy that everybody is crushing it on right now, make sure you check out that link down below in the description to the free part of the Discord so you can learn about the strategy and implement it for yourself. So we closed the day today at $18.59, but when you kind of take a look and zoom out where AMC's been over the last couple of trading days, we were all the way down at $465 2 days ago, or $14.65 2 days ago. This is a very strong price movement to the upside, and having a little bit of a pullback today of about 35 cents is nothing really all that bad. We had a slight cool off, and I think we could easily see some price movements to the upside tomorrow if the overall market is going to allow for that. Now, coming over to the Ortex data right here, let's just give this a quick refresh so we can see the most up-to-date data. We still have potentially utilization at 100%. Again, I don't trust that number yet until we see the cost to borrow really start to step up. The last time that we saw the utilization at 100%, the cost to borrow was at like 20% for AMC, and just having the utilization at 100% is pretty worthless. It doesn't really do anything for us until we see it start to affect the cost to borrow and really put that pressure on those shorts. So yes, 100% utilization, very cool data metric, but we need to see it reflected in the cost to borrow in order for it to really make a significant difference. Now, we are sitting at 21.61% estimated short interest, but the exchange reported data came out yesterday, and we saw 107.8 million shares sold short on AMC for the settlement date January 31st, and that is the all-time high that we have ever seen in terms of the amount of shares on AMC ever. What does that tell us? Obviously, they are trying to take out shares on loan and short this thing into the ground, but the apes are not going to let that happen. Now, when we talk about the potential for a gamma squeeze on AMC, we have to bring up this concept of max pain because they are really, really linked. When we come over to this website right here, we are seeing the max pain for AMC going into tomorrow at $17.50. Now, when we come back and take a look at the price of AMC right now, it's $18.59. We were up into the 20s today. So when you think of max pain, you need to think of it as a range. Are we going to break to the upside of the range of max pain, which is going to force these institutions, these market makers to delta hedge, meaning on the call side, they're going to buy shares to hedge at the calls that they've sold, or on the short side or on the put side to short some of the shares in order to hedge those puts that they have sold. Right now, sitting at this level above max pain, we're sitting at a good spot where we could see a lot of these shares start to get hedged for. Now, how many shares this week? Well, it's not that crazy, but we do have 54,000 contracts in the money right now. That's potentially 5 million shares. But when we come into next week, again, a monthly options expiration week, we already have 32,000 calls in the money with 199,000 calls out of the money. Now, where are these concentrated? This is the most important piece right here. If they're all going to filter in at these really far out of the money strikes, these 85s, it's going to do 0 for us. When we see the open interest at 34,000 right here, that's not the best sign. We could see that money kind of start to filter in at these at the money strikes. But we are starting to see these at the money start to get a little bit more volume. We see the 20s with a decent amount of volume over here and 17,000 open interest. And we do have a little bit of volume on these in the money contracts as well. Let's see what happens. But in order for us to have that big price movement to the upside due to market maker hedging, we are going to have to see this option shade start to populate in terms of open interest right around these levels. Now, let's get into some of this situation surrounding Vanguard and what they've done with their AMC position. So when we come over to Fintel, I know that these filings are pretty confusing, and I want to make sure that we understand what is going on with all of these institutions. I know these filings can be a bit confusing, but Vanguard right here, we have them currently sitting at about 47.085 million shares. Now, it looks like here there's a 514% increase in their position, but you have to understand what a 13G filing actually is. When we come over to Investopedia right here, there are several filing deadlines for Schedule 13G. For institutional investors, which Vanguard is, they are required to file within 45 days of the end of the year in which they finish above 5%. So it's a yearly filing. So this is reflecting the increase from the last time that they filed one of these 13Gs. When you type in Vanguard right here and look at their 13F, which is a quarterly report, and you look at the amount of shares right here, at the end of Q3, they haven't come out with their Q4 numbers. They had 47.19 million shares. So we got to look and see what their 13F says once that does eventually come out. But there really hasn't been that big of a change in terms of Vanguard's overall position. But there is something that I do want to bring up to you guys right here. We do see JP Morgan actually increasing their position by a decent amount over here. Let me see if I can find this again. Let me just type in JP Morgan. Oh, it's right here. So we have JP Morgan Chase right here increasing their call position. And we also see JP Morgan increasing their share position by 45% in Q4. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say they're just loaning those shares out. Yes, that might be true, but there's two other things you have to think about when these institutions are buying shares potentially to just loan them out. One, the cost to borrow, still, we're going to harp on this point, doesn't make a whole lot of sense for them to do this. It's very not cost effective for these institutions to just buy these shares in order to loan them out for somebody else to short. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The other thing is that if they are buying these shares, they obviously are bullish on this stock over the long term. And if, on the off chance that they are buying these shares just to loan them out, well, then you would see them be able to perform one of those forced share recalls at any given time, and they do not have to provide any sort of reasoning for doing so. So in my opinion, we're sitting at a really solid spot right now with AMC. We have rallied off of these lows over this past week. We have near all-time high short interest in terms of the percentage of shares sold short. We have all-time high short interest in terms of the amount of shares actually sold short into the overall market. We have great fundamental news coming out. We have that earnings preview, the debt refinance, this Batman movie coming out with the new Batman NFT, the new theater acquisitions. There's really nothing bad happening fundamentally or any bad news coming out with AMC unless there's some FUD article that tries to get released to try to spark some fear in the ape community. But other than that, I think we're in a really good spot to see this stock start to move up going forward, and I'm really excited for what we have in store over the next couple of weeks. So that is going to wrap up this update on AMC. If you enjoyed the information and analysis that I provided for you in this video, make sure you go down and hit that like button. It costs you nothing to do it, but it really helps us out a whole lot in getting this information out to as many people who want to learn. And if you guys want to see more videos like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell so you're notified every time I post a new video. So I hope you guys are having a great evening, and I'll see you guys in the next one.